how many units did you guys sell?
About like 10,000 units last year.
10 in their first year, they sold 10,000. What I find a really good way to tell kind of how mature a product is and really what mistakes a company made is to see what they change in the next evolution. The top two complaints, the charging contacts were down here, but what happened was people who had like tall, lush, very green grass, the juices would get on here and build up, and then it would block it from charging. So they moved those charging contacts onto the front, and now it will dock there and charge on the top. The other big problem is more internal and harder to see, but it's actually not as hard to see this year because you have a quick disconnect for the cover for the motors. But there were some undersized bolts on here that worked themselves loose over time. So they addressed that with an updated design for their hub motor here. Some of the more minor complaints that comprise maybe the other 20% was buildup down here. So they did two functional changes to address that. They added this brush here, and then on the bottom side of it, they added a rubber guard here to help reduce buildup over here. And while we're on the bottom side, people who have the Lymow One or have been tracking them really closely will notice that this looks actually completely different. And that's because it is. One of the big changes was they removed the secondary fan that was kind of like embedded up inside there. You can't even see it, or you couldn't see it, and you still can't see it because it's not there. And now they've really optimized the airflow just like a traditional mower does up under here. They removed the discharge chute on the one side, and now we just have a single side, so you can control where your grass clippings go, and you can dump them towards the inside of the yard instead of onto your sidewalk and things like that. The depth of this, I think, doubled or increased by 50% or something like that. Again, that helps with airflow, but it lets that longer grass stand up, and it helps create that vortex to suck the grass up in there and cut it off into a really more a more thorough, consistent, clean cut. Another big thing, it's only big because you can see it, it's on the top. They added a sun cover here. They had this screen was overheating in the direct sunlight. There's magnets on here so it can tell when it's shut, so the screen's not always on and just like needlessly burning. Also, they increased the brightness of it to 4,000 nits. They did increase the hardness of these cutting blades here. They went from HRC 40 to HRC 52. I was talking to the lawn and pest ninja, and he commented that they made this cutting angle more blunt, I guess. So it was like a 20-degree angle before, which is probably more appropriate for like a razor blade type deal. But then that will kind of dent your blade if you hit a rock, and it's harder to sharpen that out. So having a more steep cutting angle, more vertical, will help keep your blade, like make your sharpenings more easy. And then the increase of the hardness, the carbon content. That was one thing that I noticed with the Lymow One, was you did have to get under there and take off the blades and sharpen them more frequently. And there's a couple different variants of this blade out there. So there's like a mulching variant. I think they optimize, I don't think, I can tell that this is different. So I think this was part of the calculus for getting that airflow improved, was the shape of this. One other thing is it was more of an off-the-shelf option for the cutting motor last year, but this year I think it's a 50% increase in the actual like at the shaft cutting power. The bearing ring here, they were able to expand that. So they were able to optimize the cutting motor for this. There's a minor change to the battery as well. I say minor, but they actually doubled the peak discharge rate. There's like a MOSFET semiconductor that will help with like stall torque on the front, on the, with the cutting motors. They added like 5 more degrees of flex here, so you do get more, so you can follow the contour of the ground. So this is different. This used to be kind of flimsy, honestly. The one thing that everybody wants to know is the price point. And the short answer is, I don't know, but I have a really good idea. My really good idea comes straight from the CEO, and he said around $3,000. I think the MSRP is probably going to be closer to $3,500. If you're thinking about buying now versus later, I don't think the price is going to get better. So buy now before they figure out that there's actually other costs that they need to account for. Another concern that users might have, or prospective customers, is availability. They assured me it would be available, first shipments hitting US soil in February. And I countered with, so, April? And he got a big old grin on his face and he was like, yeah, it's probably more like it. So May, it's probably the accurate number. But yeah, that's the Lymow One Plus. Now you're fully informed. If you're scared of buying the wrong one, give me a shout. Even if you're not in my area, there's plenty of other dealers I talk to as well, so more than happy to refer you on to somebody else that I trust. See you in the comments section, but in the meantime, stay curious, stay critical, and you get what you inspect, not what you expect. So keep those expectations within the realm of reason.